I asked the people who are their favorite coaches. Now, when you played, who was your favorite coach and why?
Well, I think I'd have to say Bob Peters in Bemidji. First of all, we didn't get a whole lot of coaching when I was growing up. Like I've told you the story of how we played junior and our owner and our coach, and this is in junior A, would go and polish off a bottle of whiskey while we played games to five, and then the coach would stagger onto the ice and bag skate us, so there wasn't much coaching there. But Peters, we played really simply, like we're talking about. We played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our D was up on the play all the time. Two of them played on that Olympic silver medal US team.
Yeah.
But he started, and people would say, never talk about winning. He talked about winning day one. This is why we're here. This is why we're here, and this is what we do it. And his mantra was, we are going to work harder than everybody because we do work harder. So we, we weren't allowed on the ice till almost the end of football season. So we do the off ice, and nobody else did off ice. Right? We'd be in the field doing the football field doing wind sprints and all this kind of stuff. And then before my first year there, before I got on the ice, we had to run around the lake, which was 10 miles. And then the next year he went to 20. I thought was a little extreme because guys weren't running in those days. But I remember that the guy that was the all-time, he set a new record for scoring the year before I got there. And his friends came by in a truck and said, well, jump in, we'll drive you a few miles. So he did. I never saw the guy play. The coach heard that, and he never played. And he was the top scorer. So there was a culture there that there was no shortcuts, you know. And Monday, Tuesday practices, like our practices were not very creative. It's almost the same Monday practice, same Tuesday practice. But we skated for half an hour at the end of Monday and Tuesday. You could hardly even stand up. But I remember skating with U of C, and guys almost made deals. Well, don't go too hard, you make me look bad. We would race each other during these bag skates. I mean, we'd try to be that was such a difference. And we just played way faster than everybody. And our rule was, if you're open, you hit that red line. If you're open, you break, and the guy with the puck has, you only broke if it was possible for him. The guy has to get you the puck. So there was nobody standing still at the blue line waiting for the puck carrier to try to go 1-on-5. So all those things were really clear in everybody's mind. And I think every time we scored, we knew why we scored. And every time we got scored on, we knew why we got scored on. There was that much clarity. And that's the only team I've played for that was even close to that. And, the guy won 13 national championships, I think. And he was special. And he was the best one-liner. Like he was a funny guy. He could sum up everything in one line.
Can you think of one of his one-liners?
Oh, I got to think for a while. Well, I remember one time Denny Lemieux and I come back, and Denny's a farmer, and I worked on the golf course. So we had the farmer tans, eh? And we took off our shirts, and of course we're just white as can be under the t-shirts.
Yeah.
He walked up to us and said, "Did you guys spend the summer in a flour sack?" So, oh yeah, and another time they're having the banquet. We're in Lake Superior State was hosting the Nationals.
Yeah.
So we're in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And the banquet's all everybody's talking about, well, everybody play well and blah, blah, blah. And he gets up there in his talk. He says, I came here for the whole apple, not the applesauce. Just telling everybody we were there to win, not to, so it was very clear why we did everything. And if we didn't do it, we weren't going to accomplish what our goal was. And the first 34 games I played there, we won. and our team is in their Hall of Fame. Like it was over 2 seasons. I couldn't play till after Christmas because I'd gone to Mount Royal.
Yeah.
And the first 34 games and the game 33 and 34 were against University of Calgary. And I knew them all. So I remember we won 4-1 and they said, well, we were drinking beer the night before. But and the next game we beat them 6-1. And then we went to North Dakota the next weekend and 1,500 fans from Bemidji traveled to watch the game. And they beat us game 1. And then we beat them game 2. I remember Glenn Beckett got a hat trick each game, eh? But anyways, but that was, and who wins 34 games? I mean, it was just, you were never not ready to play. And that was his art, is getting you ready to play.
It sounds amazing. It's almost too good to be true. I can't say that's a whole package of a coach.
Well,
And he wasn't brilliant in X's and O's. He was brilliant in simplifying it.
he'd gone to a clinic, he said, with Toe Blake, and that wasn't very common then, eh?
Yeah.
And we played the Montreal Canadiens style.
Yeah.
But the only time he really lost it on us, we were playing a pretty weak team. And we're winning like about 6-0 after 2, but now we're dogging it out there and all that. And he came in and he just ripped us. And he wore one of those fedoras guys used to wear.
Yeah.
And he throws the fedora on the ice and he jumps on it. And he said, it's only in the Bible you let a guy up when he's down. You guys, we're trying to win the national championship. We're trying to do this.
He knew when to press buttons, eh?
And the poor other team, we scored 10 goals in the third. But
Tom, you've grown up and coached many years. And right now I call you the hockey IQ coach. And Peters wasn't a hockey IQ coach. Yet he had success. And now you're doing what you do the way you do it. How do you evolve as a coach?
well, the biggest thing that happened is when George brought Johanni, and Johanni was like he's like Gordie Howe of Finland at that time. He'd been captain of their team, played 3 Olympics, led the league in scoring, everything like that. So played 1 year in Austria and led that league in scoring. So he came and I was coaching the state college men at the time. And we had the same philosophy about using games and all this, but I'd never heard the modified rules and all this kind of stuff. Like he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're there with a guy that's a legend. He speaks 5 languages, and I remember like he gave the class, but one time we go on the ice, and he skates behind the net doing the mohawk. I'm in front. He puts it from behind the net over the goalie right on my stick. I said, holy jeez. And, and for some reason, he really took a liking to me and he started bringing me there. And of course, right away, I meet Yursinov and he has me as a guest coach. And I did what you did when at the hotel one time, we developed a way to teach body checking.
Yeah.
Starting off with bumping each other. And I did that with pro team TPS. I mean, Hanu Verta, Mikko Makala, Saku Koivu, they're all on the ice. And I did that with those guys. And I think Kiprasov was the young goalie. But I'll tell you, I was amazed. I didn't know anything about Finnish hockey. So I step on the ice there. And these guys are just flying on the warm-up. And they're passing to each other up across the ice. And the puck isn't even, it's just flat. And they're dropping that. I said, holy jeez, these guys are good. And so I got to meet all these people, but Johanni and he made everything difficult simple. That I just think that he was absolutely brilliant. And I was just, and that's what that's why our book, it's going to be pretty soon. You can get it as an ebook
No,
because it's, I just want it to be available there because it's, 90% of the book is his wisdom. I do some tactical stuff and all that, but his stuff about how you use games and tournaments, nobody does that, eh? Like you have a tournament in your practice and stuff like this, and stuff that still people don't do that would be better if they did do it. You know,
how do you blend that kind of coaching with your coach in Bemidji? Like, how would you do a bit of each? Is it possible?
I think because you're coaching young kids, so they don't really know about D zone and all that kind of stuff, right? So you go over that, but I think the theme is that you just go and do your best every shift you can. And the only time I ever bench anybody is if we bench one girl last year in our first tournament. She was taking 3 penalties a game that were just ridiculous. Just hitting people when it's, you know, so that or, basically everybody plays. Like in Bemidji, he tried to play everybody. I started off as a penalty killer. In those days, like he had 2 players that killed penalties, and he'd spot me in, playing on the 5-on-5 sometime. But I felt a big part of the team, and I think that that's important to do. Is you do that, and you try to make it so everybody's clear on everything, and you're just talking about work ethic more than you are about technical, tactical stuff, unless it just really needs addressing, right?
No,
I don't know if that answers your question.
no, it does. I'm looking at girls hockey Calgary and what coaches achieve the most success. And, just thinking of your Bemidji coach, it sounds like, well, Kyle Wanvig drives him, drives harder than any coach. Like every drill is like full speed. And he's pushing them at U13. And the parents might not like it at U15, but the ability to be pushed and realize that the coach has the team's best interests at heart. Like that would be the scariest thing for me is how that coach in Bemidji had you run 10 kilometers or miles. And on the Monday and Tuesday practices, he didn't change much. They were bag skates. Is that right?
Oh yeah, we skated, could hardly stand up at the end,
Yeah.
but we all knew why. There was no doubt in our mind. We weren't cursing the coach. We were just saying, if we're going to meet the goals we're here for, this is what we do. And myself, I think it would have been better just to do it on Monday because I remember sometimes I was tired, more tired than I should be,
Yeah.
because it absolutely drained every bit of
Yeah.
glycogen you had in you, kind of. But it was more a mental thing than anything.
Yeah.
It was more, you were actually like his thing is you line up on the face off and you look at that guy across from you, said, you didn't run 10 miles before the year. So your job was to beat that guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the Sutter brothers always said. Their dad told them. He says, you go out there and you beat the person that you're competing against.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do as a player, right?
Yeah.
Is you go out and you win your battles.
Well, I talk to Craig a lot about what different coaches do, and I tell him this, and Kyle, he works them really hard, but he has to do more of what you do, and somehow you have to do more of what he does. I think that's going to push the players to another level because both Kyle and the double A coach that you coach against, they work their players harder than any other coaches in the system. They don't.
Well, I coached against that guy in AAA too,
Yeah,
and all through, I think 1 year his team has beat ours,
yeah,
and they never outwork us.
yeah.
So
So you feel your team works hard enough right now, practicing the way you're practicing.
we of course we do, and we do some really hard things.
Yeah,
Like you those transition games,
yeah,
or that drill where it's one on one, and then you have to the D joins the next rush and the forward back checks, and you go up to 2 on 2, 3 on 2.
yeah,
Players there, it's not it's not mindless bag skating. You're skating like crazy and you keep score.
yeah.
You're skating harder than you would in a skating drill. And in this conditioning camp, I've done a little skating at the end of each practice because it's a conditioning camp.
Yeah,
But I'd rather do it within, because we only have 2 practices a week.
yeah,
I'd rather do it within a hockey context.
yeah,
Like it's different in college. When I had 4 practices a week, we would have conditioning skates.
yeah.
But you got 2 practices a week, you know.
Good point, Tom. I'm glad you made it because I'm sort of sitting here scratching my head and I'm watching. I didn't really think of the complexity and battle nature of your drill is conditioning, and they got to push each other and compete against each other. And
And it's real hockey skating too.
yeah,
Skating straight lines isn't real hockey skating.
yeah. When I coached the oval team, and you've coached them too, and they were having a la di da practice, so. They weren't working hard, they weren't focused. So I thought I have to do something, and I could have skated them, but instead I had them do 1 versus 1 races at each end with a puck, ending up with a shot. So I had them start at the blue line, go around the dot, tight turns, face off dot, tight turns, get to the puck and shoot, or stop and start, or transition skate. But they were going balls out because they were going against somebody. And they didn't want to embarrass each other. So they pushed each other. And that's the thing that I found is that battle mentality when they're not working hard or just going through the motions. Uh, I just found that seemed to work because I never really ever bag skated the team. I was like you. I just wanted to run drills that were high tempo, but I sure didn't run drills that were as game like as your drills. How did the Russian drill go last night? And can you explain it for our audience? Because basically it's scrimmage. But
It's we call it the Russian script. I picked it up from Brent DeVoe, the guy that started the Edge School,
yeah,
and he played in the line with Bill Peters in college, and I think a lot of the stuff he does he picked up from Bill Peters. But it's both teams are on the bench. We had 12. Well, last time it was 11, one group was 11, one was 12 in each bench. So I blow the whistle so many times, and that many players jump out, and I try to make it so every 3 times I've gone through how many players are on the bench. So if I blow it, tweet, 2 players on each jump out. And then when I blow, and I have them, I count 40 seconds about, and if someone's got a breakaway, I let them finish it, but I blow it again and maybe I'll go 4 times and 4 players jump out. And you do this flow, and I try to make it that every 3 times all players have got a shift.
No.
And we keep score, and they fly out of the bench, and it's a good high tempo game. And then the night before we did the power play scrimmage, and that's another one I picked up from Brent. And so there's 2 teams, a white and the dark. So at the first, the white gets the power play. So it starts off with a 1-on-1, and we only go about 30 seconds on that one because they're 1-on-1. And then 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-4, 5-on-5. Keep score. The other team gets a power play, and they do the same thing.
No.
And the players keep track of it.
No.
And it's really good because you can see how they fly out of the bench. No one's just stepping out of the bench.
No.
They're just flying out of the bench. And it's a good little, they play all situations, and, they get to play. And I do that. It takes about, that one there, it takes about, I think, about 12 minutes to get through the whole sequence.
No. The only thing I did that's not nearly as good as what you've done, a 2 versus 2 scrimmage, 20-second shifts, and your feet have to keep moving. There's no gliding. It's very fast. If there's gliding, now after 20 seconds, you have to change, but you must sprint off the ice and then on the ice. If they don't sprint, you blow the whistle, everybody lines up on the wall and does an over and back, because the sprinting to change is so critical. And that's one drill when I went around to different college teams I shared with coaches. Quite a few of them picked up on it, because even though it's 2-on-2, it's all out 20-second shifts with all out proper changes. And you know how many coaches in the goals in the NHL are a product of bad changes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that many goals in your league on bad changes. Is there?
I don't really know. I know the one thing that gets some goals for is a player coming off the bench and nobody saw them on the initial rush, right? And they come into the play, and they appear and nobody saw them. So the changes, but you can really tell if a team's into the game or not, if they're bad changes. I remember the Flames playoffs about 5 years ago, and like 3 players changed on a 5-on-5 rush. It ended up being 5-on-2.
Yeah.
And that's just players not, they weren't really into the game.
Yeah.
And I remember I took a video of their practice before that, and you were watching it with me, and they're just half-assing it so much. And I think you said, well, they're not going to win the next game, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So if players aren't ready, doesn't matter what you do. But I think a sequence that I'd like to share is that to get players to look around, you have to do it. You so said all the time, you make rules that cause things to happen. So a little sequence I like to do is you play full ice, but you make the rule there has to be at least one pass in each zone. Now that causes the player with the puck to look,
No.
and it causes people to get open, because you actually have a chance of getting a pass.
No.
And you make it, and if you pass from the D zone into the neutral zone, that player has to make a pass. And that's the first step I do to get them, to look around. And then I might go a 3 second game that you can only carry the puck for 3 seconds. Then we do it down to 2 seconds. And those things seem to be really, in all my experimenting with different things, the most effective things about players moving the puck. And then you can do half ice games where, you know, everybody has to touch the puck before you can score. Or Court Dunn had this one really good rule. You're playing, but you once you score a goal, you can't score until the rest of your team has scored. So, those kind of rules.
Oh boy, terrific. Listen, I'm going to share with you a similar drill. Austin did it with his U18, and the players showed so much hockey IQ. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. But it's a warm-up game. Picture this, Tom. You've got one team, they're all one color, the other team's all one color, and it's 3 versus 3 in each zone, and you're scrimmaging in each zone. Oh, pardon me, you're scrimmaging with one puck. So in one zone, you're defending, in the other neutral zone, you're getting open and moving the puck to the offensive zone. And after about 5 minutes, they change zones. So they get to play in defensive zone, neutral zone, or the offensive zone. Man alive, do they have to get their heads up? Because they're locked into that zone and they got to pass into the next zone. And
So there's 6 players in each zone.
6 in each zone,
Okay.
one puck. And when you see the 3 blacks get it, and the black gets it, and he's looking, the blacks are getting open in the other zone.
Yeah.
They're all jumping to get open because that's the rule. They've got to get a pass.
Well, that's a good one. I've never seen that one before.
It's worth trying, I'll tell you, because
Put that
everybody.
into my toolbox.
Yeah, it's. I couldn't believe it. I was amazed at how smart they looked. I told him after the drill, I says, "My God, they. I can't believe how smart they were. Their
Yeah.
heads were up. They looked. They made the plays, but the game forced them to do that.
Yeah.
When you got a 3 pass rule or a 2 pass rule, this puts it into the context of a whole game, every zone, moving the puck up the ice. Um, I'm going to have to diagram that one and send it out, but it's something worth trying. So you might draw it up and do it and record it for yourself. I'd sure like to share it with all the coaches because it's the type of thing that complements what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that would be good. And when we have 18 players once we pick our team.
Yeah.
So that is a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, Tom, I want to thank you for coming on. Um, if you talk to Richie, twist his arm about coming on.
Yeah. Well, I talked to him on Tuesday hockey. I said that I'd given you his contact and said,
I'm still going to tell him Wally's going to be on you. You got to come on. He's going to bug you.
yeah,
And
well, I mean, he played world hockey. He played NHL. He coached with all the Sutters, and he coached with Mike Keenan. Coached in the Stanley Cup Finals. He played. He was an MVP in the last AFCO Cup.
yeah,
Like he's done everything he can do as far as high level hockey and around professional athletes his whole life because his dad was the GM of the Riders and they're like gods in Saskatchewan, as you know,
yeah,
because that's where you're from.
yeah.
You know,
He had the best
he
sense.
was the water boy.
and he had a sense of humor like nobody.
Oh, he's one of the nicest fellas I've met in hockey.
Yeah. Okay, that's going to be our goal. Is getting him on